Welcome back again. So let's move to the next topic, that is vCenter server. Again, in vCenter server is used to manage multiple ESXi hosts. So just select a right. So ESXi hosts multiple ESXi hosts. So we do have a vCenter server, and which can be on a different network. So there is no requirement that it should be on the same network. It can be on a different network. That's absolutely fine. So now you're going to manage the multiple ESXi machines. Now, vCenter server is mainly used for the centralized management, and it does comes into two flavors. That is, one is the appliance, one is the Windows Server installation. Now, Windows Server installation, I think it's no more valid now because starting from version 8, only vCenter server is available as appliance. Now, the difference between the appliance and the Windows Server installation. So, appliance means you will be using one of the ESXi host. So, vCenter server will be installed as a virtual machine into one of the ESXi host. So, it's just running like a virtual machine inside the ESXi, and that is the appliance. Coming to the Windows Server installation is just we used to have the ISO image, and that image was run on the Windows Server. And once you run the server ISO on the Windows Server, it will install the packages and everything like a normal program. It will install everything on the Windows. So vCenter server will be installed on the Windows Server. So whenever the Windows starts, the automatically the vCenter server also starts. And previously the vCenter server requirements were also very less, like only 8 GB of RAM, just to manage the small and medium size. But now the requirements have been changed from the version 8. So this is what the vCenter server means. So why we use that one is mainly for the centralized management. And with that centralized management, it does comes with a lot of features when compared to the normal ESXi client. So you do get the web client. You also have the multi-hypervisor management, that is simplified and integrated management of Hyper-V host and the VMware host, which includes ESXi. And vCenter single sign-on, that is simplifying just adding your domain and using your domain as the to log in for the different users. Inventory search, so it does give you to maintain an inventory where you will have your host, data stores, networks, everything at your fingertips. So what all you created on the ESXi host, you can create it for in a you can create everything in a like a centralized management way. That means wherever you create, you have all the visibility no matter what. You have created a switch for a different ESXi host on a different place, but visibility you have at one place. That's what it is. Now, alerts and notification, that's normal. Host profile, that means if you remember that while I was installing the virtual machine in ESXi, the manage MikroTik routers. For the four different MikroTik routers, I have to go to the same process. So that's what the problem was, right? So instead of having that problem, what we can do is that we can create a template in the vCenter server, and we can just redeploy the template repeatedly instead of deploying the virtual machine individually, setting up the settings and everything. We don't require that one. So we do have an ability to create a template for a virtual machine. You will just make that as a template, and you will use that template for every machine now. So it's just like you had a template, you're just deploying multiple machines using that template simply. You don't need to go to the settings, set up add your network adapters and nothing. If there are four adapters over here, for every machine it will have always four adapters and everything. You don't have to worry. Now coming to the resource management for VM, again, you do have a capability in the vCenter server to manage the resources. Dynamically, you can allocate the resources if you like, DSR, DRA. So dynamically resource allocation means vCenter server gives you the capability, okay, so there is a host over here, for example, ESXi1, and there is a VM over here which is gone down. And that VM is available on the centralized storage. So what does the VM center vCenter server does it does so it will just take that virtual machine and allocate that to some other ESXi host available, or what you can do is that you can create the ESXi as a cluster, now multiple ESXi host as a cluster, and then you can just say to the vCenter server that whenever you deploy a virtual machine, allocate by yourself. So it will just check the requirement. You will give your requirement like 2 GB, 4 GB RAM, 4 adapters, and so and so. And vCenter server will decide on which host it has to be deployed. Now, automatic restart of virtual machine with VMware vSphere high availability. So if you have configured the high availability, it will automatically start the other machine which is in the standby. Audit trial, patch management, these are nothing. That's the normal stuff. Now, features of vCenter server, we realize orchestration. Then we realize is entirely a different topic which used for the automation and creating a workflow. And also, it also helps you in getting the vRealize logs. Linked mode, vCenter server provides scalable architecture, main thing. So you can scale your architecture as much as you can until unless your license allows for it. And visibility across multiple vCenter server instances. So definitely when you are having multiple vCenter servers, so one will be acting as a management at any point of time. So you will have all the visibility of different ESXi hosts, different vCenter servers and everything. Now that comes with the roles, permissions, license, everything will be replicated with all the vCenter servers. No matter on which vCenter server you are on, you will see those details and you have the visibility for that one. Coming to the APIs, so which is nothing new. So we use the APIs in our daily life just to make things automated or things easier. So it also gives the support for the API. Now finally coming to the vCenter server uh, requirement. So as I said that before, it was 8 GB of RAM which was requirement for the small virtual for the small businesses or might be the small environment, but now it has increased to the 12 GB. And for the small environment, so tiny means it's up to 10 hosts, 10 ESXi hosts and 100 virtual machines. So still it's a large one. But when we check, see on a business perspective, it is very, very low. Now coming to the small environment, it is up to 100 hosts and 1000 VMs. With the small business, that should be all good. But again, if you are a service provider, definitely that will not be enough. Now, a number of virtual CPUs here you require two, here you require four, and you require a 19 GB. And similarly, it keeps on increasing as you go. What do we say? As you go, extend your or scale your environment. Now coming to this one, you for these two storage, I think you only require the 500 GB. That should be all good. And for the remaining, I think the minimum should be 1 TB of hard disk. But I'm not sure, but I think it should be enough. So these are the requirements. So in my lab now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to install the tiny environment with the two virtual CPUs and 12 GB of RAM and 500 GB of hard disk. So what I'm going to do is that I will create an ESXi host specially for this virtual vCenter server only. The requirements, I will keep it as a two virtual CPUs and 14 GB of RAM, and I will go ahead with the 500 GB of hard disk attached to it. But again, ESXi will also take some what do you say, storage. So what I will do is that better is that I will install two hard disks. One will be 150 GB, another one will be the 500 GB, which I will use for the VM itself. So in that way, so we can allocate the 8 GB of RAM to virtual CPUs what are required for the vCenter server, and we can go ahead and install the vCenter server in it. All right, so I hope this was informative for you and thank you.